Well, come on, step in and welcome into another episode of Joy and Gratitude. And I am here with my wonderful podcast host, Ms. Beth Mercurio. Hello, darling.
Hello, Neo. It is so good to see you and to see that beautiful smile. And I am excited today. I always have the topics that I'm thinking about that would be really beneficial and resonate with our listeners. And this one is going to be called In Motion.
Mhm.
And as everyone sort of sits and thinks, what could that be about? I would love to start with a little story around why I chose this topic. And it's really beautiful. So, life happens, we know that, and life throws us lots of curveballs. And oftentimes, when we least expect it, we sometimes joke about the irony of life, like right when you think you've got a solid footing, that's when the next wave comes. And I think that when those things happen, the way in which you choose to react is really critical and really important. And many of you who have listened to our podcast, gosh, it's been a while now, over the plentitude of episodes that we have gotten to know that Neo has had some health issues in her life, and she has had to figure out how to work through them. And I just wanted to take a moment because I was talking to her about some circumstances that have sort of pushed her right off her feet. Nice little wave that came and hit her blindsidedly. And as I was reaching out to her to say, "How are you?" and I meant it from a real, like from the innermost part of my heart, because I wanted to jump through the camera and just hold and love her. And instead, I just did a lot of texting to check in because that's actually what was felt the most appropriate as to, her capacity. And her answer when I said, "How are you?" was in motion. And I thought it was the most beautiful, appropriate, heartfelt, and poignant response to when life has thrown you off kilter and you are no longer on your foundation. You are just moving with whatever the day brings you. The thought about that response, Neo, to be in motion as your answer was super powerful and something that I now, since then, have come back to quite a bit and said, am I in motion? What am I doing? Because all these things can happen, but I can be in motion and I can be choosing that. And you chose those words, and I don't know if you knew the power they held, or certainly what they held for me to receive them and to be so inspired by that reaction in what was happening for you. Um, I just would love for you to share a little bit about your attitude and perspective and what in motion meant when you said it to me.
Mhm. It's so for those that don't know, my husband had a stroke, and it's been a whirlwind of ups and downs, hospitalization that was had to making decisions about do you handle a full code, do you not, um, intubate, don't intubate, and we've made it through that. I was talking to his cousin a day before the conversation with Beth, and she said to me, "You made the choices, you never stopped." And that's where in motion came from. You see, we do have to make our choices. We can not move, not take action, and that's a choice. But when we take action and we do the best we can, and we just keep going, because we know that when we keep going, we're going to get to the other side, then things start happening. So that day, just the day before, in motion became me.
Mm,
That's who I was. I was in motion. And it and I'm still in motion. You know, I'm a 24-hour caregiver. I am a business owner who's still working through it all. And we had the audacity to move states in the middle of all of this, um, and move into a new home and never stopped. It has been about being in motion. And in all things, when you are in motion, you want to know what changes? You're able to let go of those things that can bog you down. You see, you don't get stuck if you're in motion. And yeah, you may have the bad day, but you're still moving. So you pass the bad day. And okay, my thing is traumatic. My thing is not normal. It's not what everybody's going to experience, but it's just an example of life.
mm,
You could be under something else. You could be under having to care for a parent. You could be under handling three kids and how they pull you into 100 different directions. You could be dealing with things at work. You could be dealing with things in your marriage. Be in motion. Don't stay still.
mm,
And it's kind of funny because now I just thought of the fact my mother, who is in her 80s, said, if you want to stay alive, keep moving.
mm,
So in motion actually is not something new. It's something that we've all need to do for health reasons and just for physicality. I remain in motion.
wow. It's so insightful, Neo. And the one you just sort of brought to the surface around this idea that, yes, for longevity, this wisdom from your mother that says, to stay healthy, to stay alive, to stay vital, to stay vibrant, we need to move is it's just such a beautiful reminder. You said a few things, and I think one of the ones that really sticks out for me is this idea that we don't really know what everybody's under. I like how you said that. People are under different things. And in a way, what's beautiful about that is I just have this visual of sort of like that overload where you feel physically under something. And you also use the word stuck. And I do think that the lack of motion, now I just picture somebody stuck under something, like they are stuck and they are under. And if they are choosing not to move out of overwhelm, I mean, there's a million reasons why they just are not moving, that you're right, they will never get out from underneath that boulder that feels too big to move. And that the only thing that allows us to get out from underneath is movement and motion. And I often will say, because when you feel that way, you do not see options, you don't see possibility. And often that can be why you freeze and stay stuck. But the beauty is that, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't know whose it is. It's certainly not mine. But this idea of what moves can you make? And this really strong belief that I have that there are always moves to make. There's always a choice to do something. And as much as it may not be clear, that's where we get to help each other. That's where we get to say, how is it going? And somebody could say, I can't even move. And you're like, okay. And then you can help them to discover, like, what could they do? Maybe movement for that day is just getting out of the house. Literally, just like you're actually just going to leave your house, go out into nature, sit at the beach, get a coffee, something that you forgot you even did before because you're in that caregiving mode. So we allow each other the spaciousness to say, let me help you see moves that maybe you don't see. And once we do that more and more for each other, we start to become kind of creators of our own possibility, an ability to see, like, what, know ourselves well enough to go, I feel so stuck that I know that there's this one move that I can make. I can call a friend. I love the call a friend line. I can text somebody to just say, feeling stuck today. Like, there are these moves that can make, and those moves are what shift us a little bit. You might not get out from underneath right away, but they move you closer towards another side. They move you closer to something new and something different. And I don't mean to say this is easy. And as I'm saying it, I'm thinking, if there is any kind of an implication that you're doing this with a big smile on your face, you're doing this, happily and joyfully, no, but you're doing it, and that's your whole point of in motion. You are doing something to shift, something to move, and that is the most incredible, powerful thing. Even in the worst of circumstances, you will make a choice to do something to shift, whether that be your attitude, whether that be your physical self. There's other things that, you know, there's a lot of choices that we get to make. And maybe that's part of what we can talk about. Like, what are some of the choices? And you have such a relevant personal current story that you made that got you to shift. And I know one of the things you also said to me, which was really inspiring, is sort of like this idea of what is the next best or most important thing to do. And 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 that's it. Not the, I'm thinking about the 10 things, I'm thinking about how the heck am I going to get the move accomplished. I'm thinking about, nope, I'm thinking today, in this exact moment, what is the most important thing I need to do, move, shift, etc., and just do that one thing. And those become chains of movement. One thing then becomes a shift over time when you continue to keep in motion. I just
So,
talked a lot. Yeah. So,
no, there's so many um, amazing stories during this journey came into light as you were speaking. And one was an example that my wonderful Bob gave me. Um, so when he finally moved to inpatient rehab, he would tell, he had all types of therapists, but he would tell every single therapist in his own way during his nonverbal or period, he would go one. And what he meant was one thing. Give me one
mm,
thing you want me to do. Um, and he was very focused on making it through that one thing. And he always did. He always made it through that one thing. Even when his body said, I'm tired, he would, ask for a rest and didn't leave the session until that one thing was accomplished. And that's when I realized that that laser focus is what keeps you moving. Because if I would have in the middle of everything just tried to deal with everything that was going on, I would have been in a corner, melted. And I'm not going to tell you I didn't have my moment that I was in a corner. I could tell you there was a time that I was in an elevator in a hospital and I literally went down to the floor in that elevator because I was so broken. But when I realized the importance of the one thing, let's get that one thing done. And if you think about it, it applies to everything. We all try to do so many things at the same time, and it takes longer. So
mhm,
if you just finish that one thing and then deal with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, your list gets accomplished. And it's at the highest level of your performance because you're focused, laser focused on that one thing. So it was just like a teaching that I, as a coach, have given so many people. Okay, it's just common sense. Everybody that's listening is probably saying, "Come on, we know this." But let me tell you something. When you're in the struggle, what seems simple becomes so complex
Mhm.
because we're living in one foot in emotional and one foot in logical. And it's hard to get them to basically unify into a result. And that's where the one thing comes from.
Mm.
The other thing that you mentioned, Beth, which was so important, is us helping each other. Help comes in so many ways. Help from strangers
Mm.
is a special help that you will encounter in your life if you let yourself encounter it. My husband had coded, and we went through and they got him to the level. They did a full code and got him back. And once everything was set and he was breathing and things were a little better, I had to leave the room. I couldn't be in the room anymore because I didn't want him to see me crying. I didn't want him to see me as if I was losing hope because I wasn't, but I am human. And I remember leaving his room, and that was the day that I went to the elevator. I went to get some coffee, and I literally just melted to the floor. And when I saw my floor coming, I pulled myself up. But this woman walked in the elevator, and I'm trying to leave, and she stopped me and hugged me.
Mm.
Complete stranger. Complete stranger. She wasn't a nurse. She wasn't anything. She was another person going to visit a family member in the ICU. She told me it was in the ICU later. And she hugged me and she said, "It's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Do not fear."
Mhm.
I was like, "Yeah, you're right." What I'm trying to say is take a look at your surroundings. See how you can help someone when you least expect it. Don't just be an observer, be a participant. Because there will be a day that you will melt in an elevator. Doesn't matter what the reason is, but there will be a day. And that woman saved my soul that moment
Mm.
because I just didn't know how to walk anymore. I was so tired. And here she did. All she did was give a hug and a warm word.
Mm.
And I will tell you, there's a sticker on my phone that says, "Do not fear." And that's there because of her. It's there because of her, because I understood that moment that no matter what, my higher power had it under control. And no matter what, I was going to keep in motion. I was keep moving. I was going to be there for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So thoughts and prayers are lovely. Authentically being there is powerful. Just remember that. And that doesn't mean you have to be there in person, but it sure the heck means you can say, "Is there anything I could take off your plate?
Mm.
I'm here when you're ready. I'm here to listen. I'm here to make you laugh."
As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about movement, just moving, like we said, and this idea of something really important that you said is how do we learn from others in those moments and then come full circle and offer that to other people when we are stronger and standing and see someone in that way. And this idea of movement and moving, I would invite us to notice, and I can certainly speak from my own personal example, but to notice when, if you do see someone that is suffering and it is a stranger or is struggling, do you move towards? And I certainly feel like I have grown in this area, but that in the past, I I didn't know how to move towards. I felt like that was a presumptuous of me, or was that maybe that wasn't the right move, and I was afraid and fearful of overstepping in some way. But as we walk this life, I am realizing that in those moments, to move towards someone is the most beautiful gift. To not let your fear of an overstep, or a what if I'm taken the wrong way, or what if I those words aren't well, to just trust yourself, to know that you're going to do it in a way that is warm. You are also going to be present enough to notice that if you move towards and there isn't a reciprocity, you'll respect that. You're
Mhm.
gonna know. That's the trust. The trust is, don't withhold your movement. You may not get a reciprocal movement, and that's okay too. But you will know that you were there for that human, or willing to be there for that human. Because I'm pretty sure you embraced back, right? There was an invitation, and you accepted it. And I think that my fears of rejection or lack of reciprocity kept me from moving towards people. But what that took away, what that stole from me and that all the other humans that I interacted with, was that connection, was that feeling of being seen in a moment that's really hard. And if we can get people to be present in the moment and remember what it feels like when somebody unexpectedly moves towards us, and we want it and we need it, to know that that's what we're inviting others to do for other people. Just move towards, see what happens, and then react based from that movement, not from a place of being stuck. And I will say, similar to you, I think I've mentioned, and I always talk about presence as being paramount to almost just living. To be honest, to be present is to be alive and fully alive. This moment when someone is reaching towards you, to really hear them and to listen, and to notice if you have your own bias jump in, your own protective nature jump in, and see if you can soften. Because I realized similar, was in the hospital over the past week. My daughter Annie had a tonsillectomy, and she was incredibly nervous about it. Getting one as an adult is a pretty rough recovery, if you can imagine. It's where you swallow, it's where you speak, it's every moment that you swallow. It's pretty painful. She was very nervous about it, and the nurses for that day, pre-surgery, post-surgery, the way in which they held me, the mom, and Annie, and very differently, they held us very differently, was really beautiful. It was a huge learning experience for me because my daughter's now 20, which means I have no rights, like quite literally none. Like, bye. Like, everything needed to be approved by my daughter. And even still, some of the nurses said no. Like, she's 20. Like, you can't
Mhm.
come back here. And I'm thinking, to me, she's my baby. I don't even know what you mean. Like, I don't care if she's 20. Like, I'm going to hold her like a baby. And it was just like, those aren't the rules, back in this space. We can't allow everybody to have their people. So there was a lot of learning, but the acknowledgement with which those humans spoke to me, that they knew what it would feel like to be a mom who wasn't able to come in, that they knew what it would feel like to be so anxious. They went right at it. And obviously, in nursing, in a way, it's a part of your job, but I've had plenty that don't move towards you in the way in which you would hope when you're feeling a little vulnerable and scared about something. And it was really incredible because I noticed where I got protective. I noticed when I wasn't ready to receive it. Like when they said, you can't go back into recovery. I mean, I was ready to and then I realized the way in which they approached it to say, like, we know you want to be there. We'll do our best. And I just thought, wait a minute, soften and receive this. You getting angry is going to do nothing. It's going to make you now angry on top of stressed. Like, that's what good is that? So it was also this ability to realize that when someone is trying to move towards and help there's a move to make, and guide you a little bit in a moment that you're needing some of that support, let's say, being present to noticing how you're receiving it is also such growth. I mean, I realized where I was not open and willing. And I realized that when I then took a deep breath and said, soften into this, hear what they're saying, be present to what they're sharing with you, rather than, as you can imagine, when you get your guard up, you're no longer hearing. You don't hear a word they're saying. You're just mad. You don't get to hear the stuff that was really valuable around the care she was going to get and why it was important and what was going to be happening. So I was able to shift into a softer mode and hear it. And I think I just want to highlight that because that was about being present. And that was about, as we always discuss, Neo, it takes two to tango. There's two people involved in any human connection. And the more we understand our role, and the more this brings us full circle to what you said, which is, are you an observer or are you the doer? Like, which are you in that moment? And knowing that we're one or the other always. So how do we show up for other humans, or how do we also receive? And you and I have talked about this in many different ways, but this one, and I just want to say how grateful I am for your vulnerability and your courage to talk so openly about this. It's fresh, but it's such a gift to be able to hear these real, tangible examples of love and movement in some of the hardest times.
Yeah. It's a vulnerability on both ends, because that person that gives is giving selflessly.
Mm,
I mean, it's so easy to walk down and just say, oh, that poor lady, she must be going through something. But this was again, emotion or an active act of kindness.
mm,
That was a choice. And like you said, not knowing how it was going to be received, if I was going to be angry just because I'm angry at the situation, not at them, but just at the situation, or if I was going to lean into my vulnerability. And just be aware that you are taking that risk, but it's a risk worth taking. And one thing that you mentioned was about being present. If you're not present, you can't survive the tough times. You just can't, because you're going to miss so much vital information. You're going to miss so much of what's going on, and you're going to be in a bubble that is not reality. So you have to be present. You have to be there, mind, body, and spirit,
mm,
to make it through. And I'm telling you, this is such a great learning, even though it's a painful time in my life. Um, it's kind of funny because I was just at the end. of writing a new leadership book. And this situation has literally made me take a pause and really add into the book. How do you deal with life when life is the opposite of what your leadership journey is? You know, we have so many leaders out here that are going through some crazy things that just breaks your heart.
Mhm.
And they do it quietly, and they do it in a way that nobody would know. But reality is, they are struggling. Every single day, they have to make those tough decisions to get up, to make it through another day, and also handle the responsibilities that they have outside of their work. And that's a lot. That is truly a lot. And I just say to you all, when something happens that's catastrophic in a friend's life, please understand that the day it happened is just day one of a long journey ahead. And take the time to make those connections with that person, not on day two, not on day five, but day 40, when the phone calls don't come no more, when everybody thinks it's over, but you're just in the trenches. To be in motion, it's in motion in how we give, how we connect, and how we take care of each other. I have learned how to approach so many of my friends that are going through stuff worse than me and treat them with a new love that I didn't have, didn't know I needed to have from this situation. And I really like who I'm becoming because of learning that I needed to expand who I was. So I'm doing something a little bit different in the joy song of the episode. I'm actually doing an album.
Mm.
The album is The Joy of Motion, and it is by Animals of Leaders. And it's a compilation of really interesting stuff, but all of it gives you the power of motion.
Mm.
And in it, you can actually balance your life. So keep on moving. What do we have in Gratitude Rocks?
Let's see. Keep on moving.
There you go. You got some movement.
Something moved. Yeah. Hold on. There we go. There's my movement coming back. Oh. So this is the color. It's like an icy blue white, and the word is laugh. And as always with our gratitude rocks, I think you even use the word, if people were to re-listen to the episode, Neo said, have your friends, your people, get somebody to laugh. When we talked about showing up for people in the different ways in which you can show up when somebody is in something hard and struggling. That was one of your examples. So make a move. When we talk about moving towards, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a huge commitment. It could be something lighthearted. I mean, the number we, Neo and I get a big kick out of like silly cat videos and things that, or pets. Like we do funny things with pets when we're feeling down. And so, no joke, something as simple as that, which says, I know you're going through something hard, but this made me laugh, and I hope it makes you laugh too. And so, yeah, just continue to think about ways in which you can move and help others to move around you.
Absolutely. And laughter is the best medicine. That's why we talk about joy and gratitude,
Mm.
because you can't say those two words without a smile on your face. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode, and we really look forward to talking again. Bye.